There is a woman who has been narrating, dramatizing the gospel as revealed to me, or the poem of the man God, for the last number of years. Her name is Zakia C. She has each of the chapters narrated on her channel, and then there's another channel where she's grouped them together into various hours of audio so that you can listen to them continuously, or you can listen to them chapter by chapter. Anyway, yesterday, she published chapter 510 from volume 8, which is the healing of the blind man. You only find this in the Gospel of John chapter 9. And the Gospel of John chapter 9 completely deals with that one miracle. Now, I am years and years and years, decades, listening to John chapter 9. John chapter 9, you read it and yeah, it's interesting. Christ heals a blind man. I'm sure he heals lots. He does lots of miracles in the gospel. So, we kind of take it for granted that, really that's the kind of thing that the Son of God is going to do. He's going to do miracles. The thing is, when Zacchaeus was narrating chapter 510 from the poem of the man God, or the gospel as revealed to me, which is the current title, there was a moment where she describes the man, where Maria Valtorta sees the man that is about to be healed. And, oftentimes we think of somebody who is blind. You can, for example, think of Andrea Bocelli, or somebody that that's blind, or that can't see. And not only was this man blind, but he was born with no eyes. So he didn't have any eyes. And his forehead and his cheeks were scrunched together. I'm just going to read you out because it was fascinating, the description of this man, because it ties so well into John chapter 9. It's like you could fit chapter 510 and overlay it with John chapter 9, and they fit exactly correctly. It is simply incredible. So anyway, I'm just going to go through this part, and I'm not going to read you out the whole chapter because Zakia has read out the whole chapter yesterday, spent 40 minutes, and I'm going to link in her video to this video. And I don't really want to make this too long, but I do want to draw people's attention to it. So if you go to to Maria Valtorta's writings, chapter 510, his forehead is joined to his cheeks, without any cavity, and no eyeballs appear to be beneath. The poor fellow was born like this, and he will die like that, without seeing even once the light of the sun or the face of a man. So Maria Valtorta describes this man. And actually, when you think about it, when you go back, and this is what will happen when you start reading Maria Valtorta. You will start reading Maria Valtorta and say, well, where does it say this in the scriptures? And then you go back to John chapter 9, and you said, well, 510, chapter 510, and now I'm going to read John chapter 9. And it's fascinating when you think about it, because in the gospel, the neighbors, there's, if you go to John chapter 9, verse 8, it says, the neighbors and those who had seen him before as a beggar said, is this not the man who used to sit and beg? Some said, it is he. Others says, no, but he is like him. So there's this discussion in the gospel about, is it the same man? Is it the same man? Because he's not only he physically looks different. He physically looks different. If you have a facial deformity of such a thing, where your forehead and your cheeks are joined together and you can't see, and Christ gives you back sight, gives you eyes, it's quite amazing. Now, a lot of exegetes, they do make the correlation between, using mud with Genesis, the creation story. But when you read Maria Valtorta, it becomes very, very clear what Christ is doing. It's an act of creation. It's not just a miracle of giving somebody sight. It's an act of creation, creating eyes to see the light. An act of creation. And also Maria Valtorta mentions the name Sidonia. And there is an ancient tradition that Saint Sidonius in France is the blind man that Christ heals, this same man. Now, could Maria Valtorta have concocted it all together, done all the studies and said, oh, well, I'm going to pick up this ancient tradition and I'm going to, there is a genius there in this chapter. But sometimes the greatest genius is the divine genius that allows you to see what is actually happening. And so in John chapter 10, you see John chapter 9, you see the whole chapter dedicated to this, end to end, one whole chapter regarding the healing of the blind man. It must have been an incredibly important event. It is in Maria Valtorta, it goes over 15 pages. And you also see kind of the scheme, the plot there in it, because it is Judas Iscariot, Judas of Kerioth, who orchestrates this thing, who goes to the man and says, tomorrow be at such a place because Christ passed, on the Sabbath. It is him who orchestrates this, wanting to boost Christ's, profile, maybe, I don't know. Because Judas very much thinks that Christ is going to be an earthly king, an earthly leader. Christ obviously has other plans, but in this particular chapter of 510, we see the whole thing played out. There is an incredible ability to describe the scene that Maria Valtorta does. I mean, I was reading it in English and then I went back and was reading this in Italian to trying to say, okay, well, how is it translated, just to milk as much I could out of the chapter, because she has an incredible way of expressing things in Italian. This woman has an incredible ability to describe what she's seeing. So when the man receives back his sight, he's there at the pool of Siloam, and he's I think many people have seen these videos where somebody who's colorblind, they put on these special glasses now they developed that allows people to see color, right? And they give them the glasses and they put them on, they start crying. Or these videos of a little baby that has its sight impaired, and then they put on glasses for the first time, and then the child looks around and starts smiling and stuff because they can see. Well, it's the same thing that's happening with Maria Valtorta's description of the man receiving back his sight. He said, oh, I know what water is and I know what grass is, and he's looking at a tree and he's seeing a bird and he's seeing a woman coming with a child and so on. She's painting a whole scene. A very detailed artist describing the scene. And it's one of the most incredible detailed chapters that you could take this chapter 510 from the poem of the man God, or the gospel as revealed to me. It's 510 in this edition, the newest edition. If you have older editions, it may be different, but the newest 10-volume edition, that's the chapter. Chapter 510 overlays so well with John chapter 9, the Gospel of John chapter 9. You could put one over the other. They sit completely together. They gel together. They make total sense. How could people not understanding, not recognizing? Because he wasn't just healed, he was physically transformed. He was given sight. Can you imagine today seeing something like this happening before your eyes? And we see with Maria Valtorta's works that Joseph of Arimathea, Joseph of Arimathea follows the blind man who goes to wash himself. Christ isn't there when he's washing himself, but Joseph of Arimathea it is. And then the man goes back to the house, and the people are crowding around his house, and and the Pharisees and the Sadducees and the scribes and the religious leaders of the time. How was it possible that this could happen? It was a big deal. It was a big, massive deal. that something like this happened. And then obviously they're trying, they're bringing the parents. I mean, you even see it in the gospel, his parents. So we know that this is your son, and that he was born blind. But how is it now? Oh, sorry, the Jews did not believe that he had been blind and had received his light until they called his parents of the man who had received his sight, and they asked him, "Is this your son, who you say was born blind? How then does he now see?" His parents answered, "We know that this is our son and that he was born blind, but how he now sees we do not know, nor do we know who opened his eyes. Ask him, he is of age, he will speak for himself," his parents said. So it's an incredible chapter, that's all I'm saying. And as I said, I just wanted to hone in on the description of the man that Maria Valtorta gives, because he is a heavily deformed, if his forehead and his cheeks are joined together, he has no eyes. And Christ pastes the spittle and the mud onto his eyes. Doesn't have a conversation with the man, just performs this miracle. And then we're left with John chapter 9. One thing I did notice by reading Maria Valtorta, what you have in the Gospels must have been so incredibly important and spoken about and stuck in the life of the early church, that it is recorded in the Gospels. It does say that not everything that Christ did was written there, but these things were written there. So John chapter 9 is written there because it is so important. It is so relevant. It's akin really to the raising of Lazarus. It got the town talking. It got the leadership in Jerusalem talking that day. Is it the man? Is it not the man? Where's his parents? He did it on the Sabbath. He's a sinner. Christ is this. It was the talk of the town. And it really does. Maria Valtorta really brings us in. She casts you into that day. If you read chapter 510 of the poem The Man God, or The Gospel as Revealed to Me, you're cast into that day, that event. This orchestrated healing by Judas. Or, they're asking, well, who sinned? And Christ says, nobody sinned. He didn't sin, neither his parents. The investigation of the healing. And I think this work of the poem The Man God, The Gospel as Revealed to Me, is a gift for the church to open people's minds to the light. We are blind in the world today of the message of Christ in the gospel. People are blind. People are lost. Depressed, lonely, afraid. This is the world we live in. This man-centered world. And Christ came to give his light. And he's been giving the light generation and generation. And Maria Valtorta, shows us the light in a beautiful way for our times, when it's so dark, so many people don't believe. But anyway, I'm going to link in the first pinned comment Zacchaeus' narrated video of chapter 510. It's really well done. She does a great job of narrating it, and I do encourage people to read Maria Valtorta, the poem of The Man God, or The Gospel as Revealed to Me. As I said, this work was read by many saints in the church. And when I say saints, it is, saints, canonized saints read this work. Mother Teresa, for example. But it's also fascinating when you think about how it knits together. It's like it knits together so well with the Gospels that no wonder the likes of Blessed Gabriel Allegri, a biblical expert, or Cardinal Bea, another biblical expert, no wonder they've said, yes, publish this, read this. It is so well gelled together. It knits together and it flows so well. The scene, the description, what is happening there. You are placed into the miracle. You know, Maria Valtorta has this uncanny ability to place you into the miracle. One little fact was, 20 years ago or 25 years ago, Maria Valtorta is well known in the church, especially in her name is known. And, people dip in and out of her. And I remember reading her for years ago and I said, it's very flowery. It's very, I don't get Maria Valtorta. That was my first initial, because, when she starts chapters, she's very flowery in describing things, that and this and the other. And I think it's only since this guy, Jean-Francois Laverre, has come out and did his studies on the scientific side of it, that all of those little details at the beginnings of the chapters, the descriptions and what they're wearing and what they're doing. Because even if you read chapter 510, she's talking about specific places in Jerusalem, this suburb and that place and this place. And there's a whole wealth of geographical and archaeological data there that you can verify. And if you follow this alley, it would lead to the Kidron or this or that. And that ability to that data is what has been drawing me back more to the poem of the man God. Anyway, as you know, I'm very passionate about this work. I just think it is a mine. It is a beautiful mine for the church, for our time, to give light to the world. So read Maria Valtorta, read this 10-volume, invest in it, read this 10-volume, The Gospel is Revealed to Me. Truly incredible, truly incredible. And look, and if you can't afford to buy the books, because many people say that, there's lots of places on the internet that offer them. I'm just saying that to you. But I do like personally, I do like the Italian edition, the original Italian edition, and the hard copy, which is the one I use a lot. And so if you happen to be lucky enough to have studied Italian, then buy the Italian edition. It's beautiful. And then you also have the notebooks, which are extremely well translated by a good priest, which I also recommend. Anyway, God bless you. Take care. Bye-bye.